Chapter 5. The Good Days and the Bad. Asami. A crescent moon rose in the sky, a pale slip of silver among the stars. Asami Sato rose with it, chasing the sleep from her body with a yawn and a stretch. The clock she had brought with her from Republic City sat face down on the bedside table of the guest room, just as it had for the past several weeks. As winter crept ever closer, she was learning more and more that traditional hours of sleeping and waking meant little when the sun hid for days at a time. After dressing in a warm, fur-lined robe that Korra's mother had graciously bought for her, Asami stopped before the door. She took a deep breath, rolled her shoulders back as if she were about to push a boulder up a hill, and allowed a facsimile of a smile to settle on her face. Stay positive, no matter what, she reminded herself. Then she stepped out into the hall. Her first order of business, as always, was to check on Korra. If she was asleep, Asami might spend some time with her sketchbook, or make herself useful around the house. If Korra was up, Asami would help her to the bathroom to address any needs, and then bring her some breakfast. She frowned as she anticipated the latter task. Most mornings, no matter what Asami brought, Korra barely ate any of it. Eventually, Asami would figure out a way to get her friend to start eating more, but if that didn't happen today, she couldn't let it get to her. Korra, like anyone, had good days and bad days, and a bad day didn't mean there were no good days left to look forward to. Asami held on to that notion as she entered Korra's bedroom. She opened the door slowly, as to not make a sound. Korra was jumpy about a lot of things since being abducted by the Red Lotus, and it hadn't taken Asami too long to learn that loudly barging into her room was on the list of things she ought to avoid. At one point, Senna had suggested they just leave the door open, but Korra had shot that idea down immediately. Asami could hardly blame her. Korra barely had any privacy now, even in what should have been her most private moments. Forcing her to keep her door open all day and every day was a step too far. Today, Asami found her best friend already awake, and she could immediately tell by the way Korra startled and instantly fixed her gaze on Asami that this was going to be a bad day. Asami just smiled and entered anyway. If Korra started believing that her feeling bad made Asami feel bad, she would only retreat into herself even more. "Didn't sleep well?" Asami asked, keeping her voice neutral. Korra's only answer was a slight shake of her head. Asami sat at the foot of the bed. "How's your pain?" she asked. The question didn't serve much purpose beyond gauging how Korra was doing. If Asami could have taken her pain away, she would have done so months ago, but it still felt important to ask. "It's fine," Korra muttered, looking away. "You're allowed to complain about it," Asami told her. To sprinkle in a bit of levity, she added, "I know I would. If I so much as stub my toe, you'll never hear the end of it." "It'd be stupid to complain," Korra said, with a bitterness so thick that Asami could taste it. "I got lucky. Things could have been a lot worse." "I don't think it's stupid," Asami said plainly. "Pain is pain. Just because an injury could have been worse doesn't mean it won't still hurt." Korra eyed her strangely for a moment, then sighed. "Can you help me to the bathroom? I've been up for a while." At that, Asami nodded, and her manufactured smile felt a little more real. Korra asking for help directly was still something new to their routine, and every time she did, Asami was proud of her. "Chair or carry?" she asked. She knew the answer, but it was important to ask anyway. At every crossroads, even ones as small as this, Korra needed to feel like she was in the driver's seat. Korra looked away, hiding her face behind a mess of long, dark hair. "Carry, please," she murmured. Asami slowly pulled away the nest of thick furs and blankets covering her friend. Taking care not to shift Korra's legs too much, she slipped her arms beneath Korra's back and under her knees, then gently lifted her into her arms. The bathroom routine played out as it always did, with Asami helping Korra with everything from removing her thin blue bedrobe and pajama pants, to lowering her onto the toilet, to lifting her back up and dressing her again when she was done. Months ago, when Korra had finally been discharged from the hospital back to Air Temple Island, they'd figured out the process over days of awkward trial and error. It had helped that Korra's mother had arrived in Republic City at about the same time, but even with her help, those first few nights, including one when Korra had an accident in bed and was up all night crying afterwards, had been some of the hardest of Asami's life. She couldn't imagine how hard they must have been for Korra. Over 3 months later, Korra didn't seem as bothered by bathroom trips as before. Still, Asami did whatever she could to make the experience as painless as possible, dutifully averting her gaze when any clothes came off and waiting outside when she wasn't needed. Soon enough, it was done, and it wasn't long before Asami had her best friend bundled up in her arms again. With a bit of pressure, she got Korra to agree to eat breakfast with her, although how much eating Korra would actually do was never a sure thing. Still, some food was better than no food, so Asami placed Korra down in her wheelchair, moved her to the table, then busied herself in the kitchen with whatever ingredients she could find. A few days ago, when Asami had tried to brighten Korra's mood with a joke about how strong she was getting by carrying her around, Korra had responded by saying it was only easier because she had lost so much weight. At the time, Asami had brushed it off and proved herself with a flex, earning a smile for her efforts. But in truth, Korra had a point. She was losing weight, and it was noticeable to everyone. Asami remembered having a conversation about it with Senna over a month ago, and since then, things had only deteriorated further. While Korra was far from bony, her once firm physique had softened and shrunken considerably. The doctor who led Korra's hospital treatment had said that a lack of appetite while bedridden was to be expected, as the body simply needed less energy when there was no way to expend it, but that didn't make such continual weight loss any less concerning. Korra's hands and fingers were still numbed and weakened, a lingering effect of the poison, the doctor had said, so she couldn't bring food to her mouth on her own, either by hand or with utensils. Asami was happy to feed her, of course, but she knew Korra hated it. At the start, she had complained that it made her feel like a baby, and that the Avatar couldn't be that helpless. But after countless meals over the first few weeks where she had dropped food and utensils on the floor and on herself, Korra had resigned to being fed by hand, most often by Asami and sometimes by her mother. As Asami turned off the stove and plated up 2 servings of eggs and seal bacon, she thought about something Korra's mother had told her a few weeks ago. "Even when we're the ones feeding her, we still can't get her to eat," Senna had said, in a tone that was half joking and half frightened. It was frustratingly true. Some days, Asami couldn't help but think that Korra was starving herself on purpose. That fear was on her mind again as she watched Korra slowly chew the first strip of bacon without swallowing, preventing Asami from feeding her anything else. Admittedly, Asami had overcooked the eggs and slightly burned the bacon, but she doubted that her botched breakfast attempt had much to do with why her friend wasn't eating. When Korra stiffly raised her arm onto the table and pushed her plate away, Asami decided to test the waters by pushing back a little. "You really should eat some more," she said, placing a hand lightly on Korra's arm. "I know I'm not the best cook, but I'm not hungry." "You've barely eaten anything the past few days. How are you not hungry?" Korra shrugged. "I'm just not." "Maybe a little playfulness will help." Asami made herself smile. "Maybe you could eat anyway? After all, I worked really hard making it, you know." Korra sagged in her chair. Asami watched as her stubbornness evaporated, leaving only strained sadness behind. "I really don't want to," Korra said quietly. "Sorry." Asami fought the urge to smack herself in the head. Nice going, Sato. She couldn't let it get to her. If she did, it would get to Korra next. There are good days and bad days, Asami reminded herself, and this is just a bad day. They passed the rest of the morning in Korra's bedroom, mostly in silence. Asami spent some time with her sketchbook, trying to tune out the news bulletin broadcasts Korra had playing on the radio at her bedside. Since arriving at the South Pole, Asami had made a project of improving Korra's wheelchair, and her next iteration aimed to add a lamp beside the armrest. That way, when Korra recovered enough upper body strength, she could wheel herself from her parents' house to Katara's and back, even in the dark. Korra had told her it was a waste of time, but Asami thought of it as future-proofing. If nothing else, planning for the day when Korra started feeling better felt like casting a vote of confidence for her recovery. Once, Asami asked herself if she was only future-proofing the wheelchair so much to distract from the reality that, so far at least, things hadn't gotten better. She had thought about it for barely a second before deciding that the question was bullshit and locking it away in the back of her mind with the rest of her nagging doubts. Midday came and went, marked by the sun peeking above the horizon for less than an hour. For lunch, Asami ran to the market and brought back a cup of noodles for herself. Korra told her not to waste money getting anything for her because she wasn't hungry, but Asami still bought a bundle of blue sugar cookies for the two of them to share later and stashed it away in the guest room for a better day. Upon returning to her friend's room, she found Korra asleep with the radio beside her playing relaxing piano music. The sight made Asami smile. She lowered the volume a little bit before returning with a blanket for herself, then settled into her chair beside Korra's bed. Just because I'm not bedridden doesn't mean I can't take a nap, she told herself. Closing her eyes to the sounds of quiet melodies and Korra's soft breaths, Asami yawned, pulled her blanket up over her shoulders, and allowed herself to rest for a while. Eventually, sleep took her, and she dreamed of her mother, of her loving smile and her easy laughter, of the way she carried Asami to bed every night, of her voice, unheard for so long that Asami couldn't remember it, of how her casket stayed closed, even when the little black-haired girl cried for her father to let her see Mama again, of her monochrome face, sitting framed on a bedside table, never replying no matter what Asami whispered to her, of so many moments hiding alone in a cramped bedroom closet, sobbing and screaming. Screaming. She heard screaming. Asami shot up, her hands tightly gripping the blanket. In the bed next to her, Korra was shaking. Immediately, Asami was at her side. "Hey, I'm awake. I'm right here," she said in what was hopefully a calming tone. "Talk to me, okay? What's going on?" "I don't want this." Korra's voice was barely a whimper, but it quickly rose to a harsh cry. "I don't want this. I don't want this!" This wasn't Asami's first time seeing the aftermath of Korra's night terrors, but experience still hadn't taught her what to do. Should I hold her? Talk to her? Do nothing and wait for it to pass? Korra shuddered. Her breaths came and went in harsh, uneven bursts. It was such an odd thing to see. Despite being clearly overwhelmed by fear, her body scarcely moved. For a moment, Asami imagined what it must be like to be that terrified, but completely unable to let out any physical tension. Just thinking about it felt like torture. She couldn't wait to find the perfect thing, she decided. She just had to do something. Asami knelt beside the bed, reaching to gently place her hand over Korra's own. She tried not to let the guilt get to her when Korra flinched at the touch. "Korra, hey, look at me, okay?" she said. "Just look at me. Focus on me." Korra watched her, but only for a second before her eyes lifted to stare at the wall behind Asami. Tears slid down her cheeks like raindrops on a cool window. "It's just you and me here," Asami told her. "Your parents are both out today. There's no one else in the house but us." "I could still feel it." Korra inhaled sharply, as if a knife had slipped between her ribs. "It won't go away. I want it to stop." "The poison?" That had to be what she meant. "It's gone, Korra." Asami forced herself to smile. "It's gone. Sue got it all out, remember?" Korra shook her head. She hugged herself, let out another quiet sob, and just kept shaking her head. "It hurts so bad," she said through her tears. "I can't get it out of my head. Everything. I wake up sometimes and it's like I can't breathe, like he's still..." I can't let her keep spiraling. "He isn't here, Korra," Asami said, picturing the moment Zahir had ripped the air from Korra's lungs. "I promise he can't get to you anymore. He's gone. He's locked away forever and he'll never be able to hurt you again." Again, Korra shook her head stiffly. Her messy dark hair fell in tumbles over her shoulders. "It's not real," she whispered, seemingly to herself. "It's not real. It's not real." "Korra?" Forcing herself to be brave, Asami took one of Korra's hands in her own. "What's not real? You can talk to me." "No!" Korra suddenly shouted. "It's not real!" "Okay." Asami immediately pulled away. "I'm sorry." Korra's eyes widened. As quickly as her outburst came, it ended. All the fear seemed to bleed out of her in an instant, leaving her to slump back against her stack of pillows. "No, don't. Don't apologize. It's not your fault," she said. "You're right, about the poison and Zahir." She closed her eyes and sighed. I just... I'm being stupid. My mind plays tricks on me sometimes, that's all. Asami had spent enough time around her father to know a half-truth when she heard one. I don't understand. Were you dreaming about Zahir? Korra refused to look at her. Her only answer was a half-hearted shrug. Korra. Asami wanted to understand. She wanted so badly to understand so she could help Korra feel better, so she could finally make a difference and really feel it. What did you mean it's not real? I was just being stupid, Korra said, her whole demeanor stiffening. It's fine. Asami's brow furrowed. Something about this didn't add up. But maybe it didn't have to. Not right now. Nodding slowly, she laid her hand beside Korra's on the bed, silently offering whatever comfort she could give. Only if Korra wants it, though, she reminded herself. With this and everything else, it has to be her decision. Korra glanced her way, then returned to staring at her legs. For a time, she remained silent and still, but that was okay. Asami could wait for her, no matter how long it took for her to be ready. Soon enough, her patience was rewarded. She felt Korra's hand slip into her own and give her a gentle tug, and moments later, Asami was leaning over her best friend's bed, holding Korra close, just in time for her tears to start falling once more.